I woke up to the sound of violins. Not from a phone or someone's Bluetooth speaker reel, live violins drifting through my window. Still half asleep, I yanked back the curtain and froze. My front lawn, me privately owned, meticulously cared for lawn had somehow transformed into a wedding venue overnight. Rows of white chairs, a floral arch over my hydrangea bed, strangers in tuxedos sipping mimosas like they owned the place. And there, by my birdbath, was a woman in a white bridal robe, posing like she was in some fairy tale catalog. Her veil was draped across my lawn gnome. I didn't know whether to laugh or call 911. But I knew one thing for sure: someone was about to regret every decision they'd made leading up to this moment. It all started 2 weeks ago when Delilah Crawford, our tyrant of an HOA president, knocked on my door with that fake smile and her ever-present clipboard. She didn't ask if she could use my lawn for her niece's wedding. She told me. I laughed, assuming it was a joke. My property wasn't HOA common space, it was privately purchased land that predated the association. But Delilah treated anything within her line of sight as her kingdom. When I said no, she narrowed her eyes, clutched her clipboard like it was a weapon, and hissed, "It's just one day. Don't be difficult." I never heard another word after that. Which is why, standing barefoot on my porch in pajama pants, staring at white linen tablecloths and strangers traipsing over my grass, I realized Delilah had never taken my no seriously. She'd taken it as a challenge. I stormed outside, phone in hand, trying to keep my cool. Delilah spotted me and waved like I was a guest at my own house. "Morning," she chirped, striding over in a pantsuit and sunglasses large enough to steer a yacht. "Don't worry, the ceremony starts at 11. We'll be out by mid-afternoon." I stared. "You're having a wedding here? On my property?" She blinked like I was being dramatic. "Well, you said you were considering it. We took that as a soft yes. Honestly, it's perfect. The park was booked, and your lawn is so lush." I nearly choked. "Delilah, this is private property. You had no right." She cut me off with a patronizing smile. "It's just a few hours. No damage. The bride's family donated generously to the HOA, so it's basically official." I stared at her in disbelief. "You took money for access to my land." She shrugged. "If it's about recognition, we can add your name to the program as a generous neighbor." I laughed. Not out of humor, but because if I didn't, I'd be screaming. My sprinklers were covered by champagne tables. My flower beds were crushed. A catering van was parked in my driveway. "You've got 5 minutes to get off my lawn," I said, jaw tight. Delilah's eyes widened. "You'd ruin a wedding? Are you really that petty?" That word petty. She used it whenever someone dared challenge her dictatorship. I'd heard her call another neighbor petty for putting up a Halloween skeleton in September. She once fined a woman for wind chimes. Now I was the petty one. "No, Delilah," I said, turning back toward my house. "I'm just getting started." I didn't call the police. Not yet. I had a better plan. I called Bruce, a friend who runs a septic tank service. "How early can you get here Saturday morning?" I asked. "You expecting a party?" He joked. "You could say that," I replied. The rest of the day, I smiled and played along. I didn't argue with the caterers. I didn't confront the groomsmen. I even nodded politely when the florist asked to run an extension cord through my garage. But I also made a few preparations. I watered the lawn thoroughly to soften the ground under the chairs. I placed trail cams around the yard. I manually activated my sprinkler override. And most importantly, I moved a wheelbarrow, one that just happened to be sitting above the septic tank access cover. By the time Delilah strutted back up my driveway to ask if I could pretty please move that eyesore for the pictures, I smiled wide. Of course, anything for the bride. Because I knew something she didn't. At exactly 6 a.m. on wedding day, a vacuum truck the size of a small bus was going to suck up 30 years of filth from under their ceremony. And I'd be watching with a mug of coffee from my porch. Sure enough, at 5:45 a.m. sharp, Bruce's truck rumbled down the street like a monster waking up. "Morning," he called out as he parked across my driveway. "Ready for full deluxe suction?" "Make it loud," I said. The hose roared to life with a wet, gurgling growl. Within minutes, the air was thick with the unmistakable stench of raw sewage. The bride's mother ran out screaming, air freshener in hand. "What is that smell?" she cried. "Routine maintenance," I answered. "Scheduled it weeks ago." Delilah stormed out in a frenzy. "You can't do this. You're ruining everything." I shrugged. "Just maintaining my property. Don't want to back up mid-vows." She looked like she wanted to slap me. You did this on purpose. I sipped my coffee. Delilah, you planned an entire wedding on stolen property. Actions have consequences. By 6:30 a.m., the guests were arriving. Some stood on the sidewalk gagging. Kids were crying. The flower girl was swatting flies away from the buffet table with her bouquet. A groomsman tripped over the vacuum hose and spilled champagne across the altar. Delilah ran to me, begging to postpone. I'll pay you. Just please stop the truck. I stared at her. You trespassed. You lied. You took money. And now you want mercy. She didn't answer. At 9 o'clock, Bruce returned for the second flush. The smell doubled down. Guests retreated to their cars. The bride was crying into her gown. The groom looked like he wanted to disappear. And then the screaming started between the bride and Delilah. Turns out the park hadn't been booked. Delilah lied. Her niece stormed off in fury, and the ceremony unraveled. That afternoon, 3 board members showed up at my door, George, Mark, and Janine, looking sheepish. I laid it out for them. The trespass, the payment, the damage, the forged approval. George handed me a receipt billed to the HOA's event fund, signed by Delilah. The date? A week before she ever asked me. This wasn't miscommunication. It was fraud. That night, they held an emergency meeting. Delilah walked in like she was there to be applauded. Instead, she walked into a buzzsaw. George read the charges. Mark recited the bylaws. I played an audio recording of her admitting she took my silence as permission. The room went dead silent except for the sound of her own voice, caught in 4K. The vote was unanimous. She was removed. Within days, video clips of the septic wedding hit the internet. Delilah went viral in the worst way. Her name trended for all the wrong reasons. Then the county got involved. No permit had been filed. That triggered an audit. And when they dug into the HOA books, they found thousands in outreach expenses with no receipts. Delilah's house of cards collapsed. I filed a claim for damages and won. She was ordered to pay every cent. By the end of the month, her LinkedIn was gone. Her job? Terminated. Her reputation? Vaporized. For the first time in years, the street was quiet. No HOA threats. No lectures. No clipboards. Just the sound of sprinklers on fresh sod and the occasional neighbor chuckling as they rewatched the viral meltdown with popcorn in hand.